This is Suspenders Unbuttoned, a podcast where friends talk with friends about TV, movies, and books.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Suspenders Unbuttoned podcast. My name is Sarah.
And I'm Julie, and we're excited to welcome today Rebecca Boss and Chris Masi. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. We're so excited to have you. The new show is great, and I think everybody is going to be really excited to hear from you. So let's talk about Ride.
Awesome.
Let's talk about it.
That's our favorite thing to talk about.
Perfect.
Poster just to see.
I see.
Yeah, I can see that. That's some great artwork back there. That's the poster for Ride, right?
Yeah,
we're very proud of it. So I was like, let's hang it in our office. This is our home office garage. So
it's a spectacular poster. It's actually one of our favorite things to talk about, or be like, that's a boring poster, but yours came out and we were like, that's an awesome poster.
I agree.
I mean, there's some great material. You can't go wrong with Bo, Nancy, and Tiara. I mean, I can't imagine it being bad at that point.
But the whole thing hit the look too, and the colors. I was like, the color schemes with the browns and the golds is like
it's a whole vibe, right? It kind of it really shows the tone of the series, I feel like, and that doesn't always happen with posters.
It does. Oh yeah. We definitely made an excursion out to go see the billboard that's in Studio City and took lots of pictures because it just is so beautiful. It's amazing.
Okay, how crazy is that to see your work on a billboard?
It's the ultimate achievement, really. I can't think of a bigger. I mean, maybe they're bigger ones. I don't know.
It was pretty surreal. I mean, we brought our kids. We have two young ones. Our youngest is 1 year old. He had just been born when we started the show, so he literally would sit next to me on Zoom while we would, be in the writers' room. And so seeing him be there with us to see that and just be like, look at what mommy and daddy did. I mean, obviously lots of other people involved. Right. But, it was a really beautiful family moment, something you don't really get to share in a lot of other jobs.
I like to pride myself that I'm not this type of person that I don't care about the glitz and the glamour of Hollywood too much. But it was, and I strangely enough, I really like hiking and I go, I love mountains and outdoors. It gave me the same kind of, when I saw that billboard in person, the scope of it, how big it was, and just like you see the hard work we put in, that so many people put in, and it's finally there in this thing, and you're standing with it. It felt like looking at a beautiful mountain, the same kind of feeling that gave me wow. And I just had to look at it for a long time, and it's the only way to describe it. It was almost like a weird soul moment,
There's
I can imagine that.
Yeah. So iconic about a billboard too. It's very old school. It's tangible. It's not electronic, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, even if we had a bajillion likes on Instagram, you don't feel that like you see when you see a billboard,
Right. It's not tangible. And a billboard is tangible. You had to go there to it.
Yeah.
You couldn't just pick it up on your digital media.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There was one day I had to drive by it on my way somewhere. And then on the same commute, I had to drive by our old house that we lived in when we were 23. And it was such a weird, oh my goodness, this is like a full circle moment.
Yeah, look how far you've come. Right.
Yeah.
I love that. There's a comment in the thing. I didn't know they were married. All excited, and I'm like, no, I think that's a fun fact too. So
13 years.
Yeah.
Am I going to get it wrong? That's not good.
I feel like after 10 years, you forget, and you have to start doing the math.
Are we doing dinner tonight or not? Let's just do it another night because it doesn't work tonight. I've been there, done that one too.
Especially with kids, it definitely changes the dynamic.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yes,
certainly changes.
I was like, I should probably do the math because I know mine's coming up soon.
Congratulations.
I stopped counting.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
It's a lot of years
to count on.
We're into the decades now, so it's like it just makes me feel old. But hey, that's okay. But we're here to talk about Ride, and it's so much fun to watch a new series unfold before our eyes. But it doesn't just happen in the moment. So how long has this process been going on?
Oh my goodness.
Longer than you would expect.
Long time. We had the original idea back around 2016.
Okay.
And we've been kicking it around for a really long time, and we've had lots of different versions of it. And we feel so blessed to be a part of Hallmark and this new road they're paving, which is incredible. And we were so lucky to get to work with the entire team, Lisa Hamilton Daly and Lori and Jillian and Jose, and they really shepherded this along with our studio, Blink 49. So it's been I can't do math. Is that 7 years now that we've been working on this project?
Yeah, I mean, it's gone through a lot of different iterations. It started out, we basically wrote the pilot on spec, which means like you write it without, no one's paying you to write it. It was
Right.
called, there's two different ways of calling a spec script. There's a spec script you write for a different show, or just a spec pilot, basically.
Okay.
And we wrote that, and back, like you said, in 2016, 2017, just as a sample of our writing. That's kind of what you do as a writer to try to get more work or whatever, or see what happens with it. But it started to get some traction with some producers in town, and then we kind of ended up taking it out as a pitch and pitched it all around town around that time. And no one really bit at the time. But Lisa Hamilton Daly, who's now at Hallmark, was at Netflix at the time. We had pitched it to her those many years ago. This is like pre-pandemic. And then you cut to around whatever post-pandemic, whatever year it was, like 2021.
They're all running together.
I know.
Back to life.
Yeah.
For us, which was fantastic. Since that's kind of what we, so then we started to retool it in sort of a Hallmark way a little bit. But again, Hallmark was kind of going a different direction. So we were really surprised with the show that we came out with, like how amazing it is,
Right.
Really.
So you pitched it at Netflix and she remembered it,
Absolutely.
which is amazing. But
Yeah.
how much did you have to kind of change the basis of the story for the two different networks? Like, do you have to kind of drastically change your characters and such, or?
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly enough, there was a lot that lived through it.
Yeah,
I mean, like Hallmark was very open and really allowed us to really have a vision, which was incredible. For us, the core tenets still always remained the same, which is the found family, the three strong women coming together from different walks of life. Those were things that we always really wanted to honor, the small town feel. I'm from a very small town, so that was really important to me. So it did change, but the characters themselves and the core tenets remain the same.
Most of I would say like almost all the characters in some way or fashion are very similar to what they were the original. I mean, again, you talk about original, there was like, that's very, very different, but again, it's gone through so many iterations. But I definitely think it's basically, from the Netflix version, was pretty much similar. There's some more dark stuff that we had to kind of pull out, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Just that Hallmark viewing. They're allowing a lot more ranges in drama and a lot more broadening their focus and characters for sure. And so we're seeing that play out in Ride, and I kind of like that. I mean, if you're going to watch a series, I enjoy that there are ranges in the emotions.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And we were so lucky that The Way Home came before us and really carved that path that people knew, like, this is the spot for really quality television. And we're so honored to be on the same network.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
We're enjoying it. Julie, do you want to pull up your video?
Well, okay, so this is what I'm going to say. I grabbed, Chris posted at one point into his Insta stories the wall of notes.
Did you like zoom in or something? Did you zoom in? Don't tell me you zoomed in.
No, I did not zoom in.
We love to be out there.
I was like, you found some old thing. You're like, so and so did die, or something like.
No.
Spoiler, Chris.
Here it is. I'm gonna play it. You can't see.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah. But just that it's a wall. Is that episodes across the top there?
Oh yeah.
I
No,
think
those were acts.
Yeah.
So that was basically before we had the writer's room, when we were basically when we were retooling the pilot for Hallmark.
Okay.
So what I was doing was, I think I was just like so excited that like that's when we got this like 10 episode order, and we're like, oh my gosh. And it's just kind of, this is like, before we had the, you staff a writer's room, there's like this,
Right.
like basically we still had to do the pilot, and that's us.
Right.
And so, but I knew we were having a writer's room coming. Anyway, it's just us in this garage, and it's like crazy, so I just got so excited. And so I like remember filming I was like, and we had, there was a wall, the wall's not set up that way anymore, but I just basically took all the note cards. Those note cards are scenes basically. And
Okay.
took the script, we basically broke it back out, put it each scene, rather than looking at it on a page, like a bunch of pages, you put them into note cards, you put them on the wall, because you got to start moving things around.
Right.
And so it's broken up by acts, which is basically teaser, act 1, act 2, act 3, act 4, act 5, act 6. I think, I don't know how many acts there are, but and those acts are basically based on commercial breaks, so to speak.
Right.
And so you always have act outs and that type of thing, and you kind of, it helps you. And even if I still like a lot of streamers and stuff don't even use commercial breaks anymore, but we still like to break the story that way. But yeah, that was the long story short. That was one episode. Each card is a scene, and each top part is an act of that.
So I love that you did it that way and broke it out that way, because you physically can see you moving things around to different places, and like there's that like physical component to I'm moving this shot to here. Like we can literally see you rearranging how it's going to flow. So is that giving us a vision about what you're thinking in your head when you're thinking about the storyline?
Absolutely. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, it's such a it's hard to describe like the creative process. It's such a fluid sort of thing. It's not just us, it's us. That was just like you're seeing one little snapshot of it. That was version 1 of 65 of the pilot. Honestly, like, I mean, it's not like, okay, that was golden. And then, then you get notes from people, you go through a writer's room, you get notes from Hallmark, get notes in the studio, you retool it again, you go back, and it's just like, it's just constant refining process of making, and it ends up with what it is, but that's part of the collaboration. It's like, it's not just us, it's minds of a bunch of different people kind of poured into it in different ways through us. But yeah, so it sounds really chaotic, but yeah, it is. You get sort of used to it, and like in my mind, the way when I do that, I love that process. They call that braiding or blending, when you're putting the scenes up and you're kind of moving them around. Like we call it a beautiful minding it. You're going like
yeah.
But I always say like I have more as far as our brains. I like to say I'm more like the analytic. Oh, I don't know. I don't like to say more or less. We always try to but like analytical versus creative. Like I'm not a math genius or anything. Like I don't like math, but for some reason she always gets almost annoyed at me because I'm like, well, that doesn't match up with this, and this has to track with that. Okay. I'm being like super like like very focused on almost the math of the story. And so a lot of people, it's all process. A lot of people don't work that way, but I'm just
right. No, I get what you're saying.
It's the first time writing made sense to me was watching that short clip. No, but that's why I recorded it. I looked at that and it's like, I get that. I will also say that I work in critical care and I am a pharmacist. So that you are mathing the words for me and I can follow the math. So no, it was a very short clip and I'm like, I get this now. And so I also hate when things don't line up or the storylines don't make sense. Like as someone who loves good television, movies, or reading a book, I'm always like, no. Right?
Yep, totally. Yes. You're speaking my language. You're speaking both of our languages.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. There's so many along the way, right? There's the writing, and then when you get to production, there might be like someone's sick that day, or you lose a location, or something happens, and you have to adapt, and then you get to the editing process, and it's like, oh, that scene didn't turn out the way we want. So how do we cut around it? So there's always every step of the way, which is what makes it actually really fun. And like Chris said, collaborative. Right. I mean, TV, you're working with so many people and they're all so talented at what they do. And so everyone gets a little piece of it, which is amazing.
Totally.
Yeah. I love that collaborative process. And you're always like, no matter what you do in life, you have to be able to like look at what you have and then something happens and you're going to make an adjustment and a change. And for the first time, I think I could actually see how that process is applied in writing because you visually and concretely put that up for me. So anyways, that is why I probably videotaped that and put that in here to show, because I was like, that's how that's happening.
Well, see, but I am not a math person and I loved it because I'm a visual person. So to see everything laid out for me would be really helpful, right? So I appreciated it from that aspect. So, but not the math aspect.
Yeah, and like what I said, when I'm a math person, I'm not one of those people that can do like
No,
you
but
know,
analytical.
about that. It's sort of just analytical is what I say.
Mhm. No,
That doesn't track with that. And but like
Right.
well, it's logic, it's lawyering.
Logical, yes. Yeah. Well, we
You also-
appreciate that, yes, because
you
we
also
appreciate
lose
the
me as a
TV.
viewer if it doesn't track.
Mhm.
So I love when it's the storylines are tracking and the information is tracking. I love a long arc and a short. It's like short game, long game. So
Right.
I'm here for the long arc too. So then you got to keep track of that through the whole season, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then
Do the best we
things
can.
shift. So, you turn in the first couple episodes and there's things that aren't working in the first couple episodes that have ramifications for the later episodes.
Right.
So that you have to keep
Oh.
track of that and what the
Mhm.
snowball effect of that. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of keeping stuff.
Yeah. When you first meet with the writers' room as like a team, you come up with what you call tent poles.
Okay.
And those tent poles are things that kind of you try your best to stick with throughout the season. It's kind of what you go to the network and pitch to them. You say, oh, this over the course of this season, Missy and Cash are going to do blank, 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 right? And by the end of the season, they're going to land here, or whatever.
Okay.
And these are the big moments that you become your tent poles. You stick them in the ground and you work towards them and you kind of build around them. And so that helps you have these like little checkpoints and check markers to do all this other stuff, like individual storylines and episodes along the way that can build you to your tent poles, or like track the emotion of the theme or whatever, get you there basically. And that's kind of how it happens.
I love that actually.
Yeah.
Like you're working towards those things. Things have to come to those. That's when I love as a viewer or a reader a story, when you can see all those pieces, when they all come together and you finally have that moment.
Right. Like, oh, they planned it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. But again, sometimes the tent poles move, and that's the way you got to roll the punches. It's so many factors, and
then you're moving the pieces of paper again.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's part.
And
That is
more in.
Yeah, you definitely learn to be okay with impermanence.
No, I love this. I'm here for this talk, man.
I know. So I want to know too about your team. We talked about the writing room, and how many other writers are working on this show with you?
Yeah, so we had two different rooms at one point, just kind of like how the season shook out a little bit. In the beginning, it was Chris and I. We had Sherry Cooper Landsman and two other writers and our writer assistant. That was just our small kind of mini room that we had. And then once we got our official pickup, we had a little bit of a bigger room, and Mark Haroon, who was one of our writers, left to go work on Heartland, and we were so sad to lose him, but also so excited for him because he's such an incredible person. Yeah. So then we brought in two new writers, and so I guess all in all, how many is that? I'm so bad at math. 5. Yeah, we're one entity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so five writers.
Somewhere around there. Yeah, it's like exactly.
Yeah, so a nice group though.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, that's what's so great about TV is you get to spend time with lots of different kinds of people, and you just have fun together. And last year, because of we were still all over Zoom, so that was an interesting dynamic. We had a couple Canadian writers, so it was really interesting to have a different perspective. And but yeah, it was tons of fun.
Yeah, typically most writers' rooms pre-pandemic all went to a location, met, and sat around a table, ate lunches together and spend all day together. Post-pandemic, it was all this, right? It was
Thank you, COVID, for we exist because everyone's good at this now, though. So
I mean, you could talk to different people. Some people like the community and all that of the pre-pandemic. I like this because I don't have, if you live in LA, you don't have to commute anywhere, and you just hop on. Yeah. Tell people what you want. Buy. You could just.
And for me, I had just had I had not even a week old when we started, and
you don't want to leave. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it allowed me to still be a mom and still get to work on the show that I loved. And so there's pros and cons.
Yeah. Right. And the previous show we worked on, there was a writer who was in New York at the time, and like on this show, we had writers in Toronto. So it's like it allows you to have a little bit more of a space to do that.
Yeah.
So I love that. So we talked about like the journey for Ride and where it came from and stuff, but the show itself, one of the things that I love is the characters and places names. How did you start picking names?
Oh,
That
wait.
is a great
Can I
question.
tell you Missy's name? That's hilarious. That's the
Oh.
funniest one.
All right, tell us.
Let's hear it.
That's such a big thing to say. That.
Let me preface this out. So where
No
I'm
one's
from,
gonna like that.
I'm from
So-
southeastern New Mexico, and it's basically an extension of West Texas. So my mom has all these kind of like southernisms, and
Mhm.
she used to say whenever there was a female around, she'd say, "Oh, Missy May," like, "Oh, that Missy May." It was kind of like a term of endearment, and I always thought, "Missy, that's so cute." So then, flash forward.
It was the name of our first dog.
I love it.
It's perfect. And now
I love it.
We didn't get to be like a 10 series show.
But I loved the name so much
It
that
was
I
like, and it's a great name. I mean, but it was fun. Like we this was like, again, we wrote this a while ago, and we actually had in our house, we had a friend of mine who was living with us for a while, like a roommate, and he just, when he saw it, he was like, he saw Missy, he was like, "You mean the dog?" Yeah, I was like, "Everyone knows this now." Like everyone else,
a lot
it was
to us.
hilarious.
So
I know. Does Tiara know that?
I don't think Tiara knows that.
We'll tag her.
we'll make that a clip and we'll be like, does Tiara know?
Yeah,
I know, but she meant a lot to us. So
it
it's
was
a
just like a
compliment.
name that fit. Like when we were writing, we were just pumping it there. Like, "Oh, Missy."
Yeah.
Okay.
Right
I
here.
love that because you're honoring like that memory you have of what your mother would say, and then a pet that was so special to you. So
Yeah,
now
that
it
was
lives on.
Exactly. And those were our kids at the time. We didn't have kids. It was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
and by the way, kids, our firstborn son, his name is Augustine, and that's where Gus comes from.
Okay.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
His name, we call him Augie, but Becky's dad calls him
Gus.
Yeah. And then Cash is named after Johnny Cash because
Okay.
I love Man in Black is one of my favorite songs. Love the message of it.
Iconic.
Yes. So we wanted Cash to kind of, embody that.
Man in Black, yeah.
And then Tough, we just thought was a cool name for a bullfighter. We're like, that's dope. Like, he's tough.
Right. So Jake told us, he like asked, "Is Tough short for something?"
Yes.
Nope.
And you're like, "It's on the birth certificate."
That's so funny. I think one of the writers asked me that about Missy. They're like, "Oh, is it short for Melissa?" And I was like, "Nope."
No. Nope. Just Missy. Yep.
And then the oldest son is Austin, which is Texas, right?
Yeah,
Texas,
exactly.
yes. Iconic Texas. I think we were kind of trying to channel our love of Friday Night Lights with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Great show.
Let's press this Friday night.
Poor Austin.
I
He
know.
comes back and oh gosh.
We realized at the time that we were going to get such an amazing actor for Austin, and we were like, "Oh my goodness,
I know.
we should." We don't want to let go of this character,
Yeah.
but luckily he's still very much a presence in the show. And Marcus is just incredible. And it was so amazing as we did the casting process, how they look like a family. Like when you put your pictures next to each other, like, oh, I could totally see how these are brothers, or, Isabella's their mother.
Yeah.
So that was such a fun process.
When you were creating it, did you kind of have, did you imagine what these characters looked like?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We imagine. And what's so funny is like Missy was always a little hard to, because, she's such a specific kind of person. And then I remember we were doing what's called a chemistry read, where you bring in any characters that are going to have a romantic arc. And I met Tiara, and then Bo came in, and they did their chemistry read, and I was like about to fall off my chair because I was just like, I would never have imagined, like, this is not exactly what I imagined in my head, but now that I see it,
And now she's it. Yeah.
it's way better than I could have imagined. It was so incredible, and they're so great together. And my mom was actually visiting while I was watching the tape of it, and she saw Bo walk on screen, because my mom grew up with cowboys and everything.
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh, that's a cowboy."
No,
And I was like,
mom approval.
Yeah, and she communicated that up the chain. I feel like her mom had a big
Saying.
hand in casting Bo Murchoff.
It's a good
love
casting choice, though. It's a good casting choice.
Oh.
Yeah, and if you're gonna have a actor come in that's gonna come in intermittently in memories, Marcus Rosner too. It's like, boy, the internet kind of blew up when he died. Right? People like that.
Well, everybody loves Marcus, right?
Right. He's
yes. And the second he showed up on set with the cowboy hat and he had the toothpick, and I was like, this is Austin. Like, that's exactly what I imagined.
He's got a jawline for days. It's
we felt the same way. We were like, once we cast him, before we felt like the audience were like, damn it, why does he have to die now? We were as disappointed as everyone else. We're like, but we're like,
now we have to do a prequel.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I was like. Yeah, I was like, dude, I'm gonna see that guy, do a whole show.
Yeah, he's so charismatic, and he and Bo together were incredible.
Yeah, those scenes we've seen so far have been so good. I love the scene. Was that just last? Now it's just becoming one story instead of episodes. Right. I've seen it enough now, and I'm like, they're sitting in the back of the pickup truck.
Like 2 weeks.
And
2 weeks.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is good. And the two of them playing off each other, Austin in his own world and Bo being like, what up, dude? But it's a great scene, and you're like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that scene was incredible. I remember I was on set for that one, and our producing director who directed that episode did these gorgeous shots, and I just felt like I was just in the middle of like the plains, and we're shooting in Alberta, Canada, with the gorgeous mountains in the background, and it was one of those moments where I just felt like this is $1 million view that we're getting to play off this year with these incredible actors. Like it was one of the moments I can think of where I was like, this is really special.
Yeah, I love that. As somebody who's looking through the footage for social media posts, sometimes you just like look through and you just stop and you're like, this is really good right here, And that was one of those scenes. It was like, I really like this scene along the way. But you guys are blessed to have a lot of great supporting characters. So you wrote them. So thanks for writing amazing supporting characters. But you got great cast for those characters.
We have the best cast. We have the best crew. Like, it's incredible. It's honestly, we're so blessed. I can't say enough good things about every person that we've gotten to work with. It's so nice.
And we've gotten to meet a few of these actors, and honestly, every time I'm like messaging Julie, we're like, we loved them.
Right.
Yes, they are so kind. And what's so funny is because they all had to move to Calgary to shoot, and a lot of them didn't bring their family members with them, and so they really did become their own family, and they would start to exhibit characteristics of their characters. Like Tiara's very much like Missy. She's like, she's got her life in order, and she knows what she wants. And Bo's kind of the fun one, like it's just, and Nancy keeps them all in line. Yeah. They all kind of exhibit their own characters.
Method acting.
Yeah.
You gotta love that. So some of my favorite scenes have been Nancy with Greg Lawson. He plays Hank Hickson. I'm gonna get that right. He's the mayor.
It was Becky's mom's maiden name. That's where that comes from.
That is fantastic.
I love all these tie-ins. Yeah.
Now you know. You chose Hickson of all names.
Yeah. I know. Greg is so great too. I was talking to a reporter recently who said something along the lines of whenever an actor shows up for an audition in Calgary, if Greg Lawson's there, you just walk out the door because you just know that he's gonna
get. He's so good, and I love that. Like, without saying it, you totally get the feel that. So Nancy plays Mama McMurray. She's the matriarch of this family, and he's the town which also has an amazing name, Canyon. He's the mayor of Canyon, and you immediately know their history, and then you quickly find out it's since childhood, and there's no doubt about it. These two were like in the mud in kindergarten together, right?
Yep.
Yes,
exactly. That's the small town aspect, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you just love that, and because of that, there's scenes like there's no fluff, it's just like down to the point. This is what we need.
Yeah, he knows her better than anyone, and especially since we don't get to see Dusty, he really exhibits that historical aspect for Isabel of like pulling us into what her childhood was and all of that.
Yeah, and we were heavily influenced for that character by again, we're very influenced by Friday Night Lights, but by Buddy Garrity from Friday Night Lights. If you remember, like that's kind of what we had in mind when we were casting him and still writing him. It's like it's this idea that he's not a villain or anything, but he's a little bit of a fly in the ointment sometimes. Like kind of is like, come on, man.
But sometimes he tells it just like it is. Like, well, maybe if Cash actually bull rides, it will be good for you, the ranch, and the town.
Right.
In a way that only somebody who's known you your whole life can tell you, right?
Exactly.
At a picnic table.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that scene.
These are the details that I notice in my concrete way.
He stood out to us right away. I mean, we all know him. He's great. Yeah.
I know him. Many of the viewers know him from the wide variety of things he has done, but there's a lot of crossover from Heartland into the Hallmark world. And he, as my husband says, he brings all the lost and wayward children to Heartland.
Oh! That's amazing.
He plays Clint like the social worker or something, but the lost and wayward. So I loved seeing that when I saw that he was up in for the cast. I was like, this is spectacular. I'm all here for Greg Lawson to be there. But you have lots of other the cast is great from your center, your poster.
Yes.
From your poster on out. Is there anything that you think is like better once you had the people cast?
Oh my goodness, everything. Like once we did the table read and we could see, and Nancy was incredible too. Like everyone really pulled in and said they really owned their characters and they really dove in and helped us dive deeper into all of their characters. So once everyone was cast, we were like, oh, this, like new things click in, right? Like, oh, that makes more sense for who Missy is. And, Tira's so athletic. So Missy's can be so much more athletic and all of those things. So, Also,
like I remember telling Bo this early on when we cast him. He has like originally, when the Man in Black thing, like the idea of like we were envisioning something even more darker, kind of like broody. Yeah, but he does broody just enough, but it's also he brings a levity and kind of like he can have fun. Like so, you see that scene with him dancing with Valeria. Kind of being a goofball, and that's like I remember seeing that in his chemistry read, that I was like, oh, you can be funny, like you can be fun, you can be the guy who's like throwing spitballs in the back of the classroom kind of guy, you know what I mean? Like, and I love that about him. There's a different way to show his struggle, his internal struggle, that isn't just like the guy from I just did that voice and it reminded me of the guy from Ted Lasso who's like, not that guy, you know what I mean?
Right. They're all so funny though. It makes everything so much more fun because you're like, oh, we can get some comedy in here.
Yeah, exactly. We love that. We believe that any good drama has an element of comedy and levity in it, just like any good drama.
Right. Okay, so you've mentioned that you've been on set. So were you there a lot?
We tried to go, as much as possible. Obviously young kids, that makes it a little bit of a challenge. But we got to be there almost for every piece. And I was there a lot for the first couple episodes, especially. And then 3 and 4, especially, just making sure, we got it up and going. But it's such an incredible process. Like, we don't have any what they call practical locations. So everything is on location. We shoot on a real ranch with real animals and real wranglers who are wrangling those animals. And, if you see a character sweating, they're actually sweating because it's really hot in the summer and it's really cold. Right. You'll see once we get to the later episodes, there's incredible snow everywhere. And they had to shoot in the snow. And so it adds this extra layer that's just so incredible.
So when you're on set as as writers, are you wanting to like change the script when you're seeing it?
Yes, it's a balance of, having to change things, especially like, if something, you can't get something, or, like I said, someone's sick, or, someone, a lot of times the actors would be like, I really don't feel like my character would say it this way. Can we come up with another way to say it? And you collaborate together of new ways of approaching it. They ask a lot of questions, like why is the character saying this? Like, where are you going with this storyline? So that was really important as well, to be on set to be able to answer those questions.
Yeah, and we really trust. Every show is different, but we really trust our actors' instincts. A lot of shows, then depends on the show, but some shows, you know, not saying I don't know. I've never worked on every show, so I don't know whether they trust their actors' instincts or not. But I've heard that other shows, like, you have to be word perfect, no changing lines, blah, 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 blah. No, you know what I mean? Like, again, we're so collaborative. A lot of times the actors will bring, half the time you're like, oh, that you made that 10 times better. Thank you. You know what I mean? Like,
they're really smart about story. That's not always true. There would be times where they would ask to change lines, and they would be tiny little tweaks, but you're just like, oh, that's beautiful.
Because their heads are in, I get it. Your head's in the character, and it's kind of, that comes, it's just another pass on the script. It just comes out a little bit differently, a little bit more with a different cadence, you know. Just, you know, but it's important to like allow that improvisational kind of feeling to happen a little bit.
Right. But then also making sure you get what you need. Right? You're like, oh, you need to get this because it pays off later or whatever.
We're the arbiters of those like mini tent poles in the script. You know what I mean? It all tracks, all that kind of stuff.
Right. And I'm sure the actors really appreciate your trust as well, because I would imagine it allows them to really just kind of get into the character.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, acting is, you're putting yourself out there, you're on screen. And so I really understand if there's like a line that's feeling weird, and it's going to make them feel weird, and it's going to affect the performance. And so we want to make sure to set our actors up for success, because they're so talented. And so whatever makes them feel like they're going to give the best performance possible, we want to empower that.
Yeah, I love that. Donna in the chats has a question. Did the location pose any challenges to the writing?
Oh, yes. So we shoot a lot of exteriors on the ranch. So anytime there was any kind of weather, you know, we would have to wait out the rain. We would have to wait out the snow. And then the thing I wasn't thinking about at the time was, because when you're shooting an episode, especially we do what's called block shooting, which means you shoot 2 episodes at a time. And so if we had snow per se, like, for example, there would be one shot where the snow is like really intense, right? But then you shoot a scene a little bit later and the snow has melted or whatever, and so it doesn't match. And so you have to think about those things when you get to the post, the editing process, and think about like adding in visual effects possibly and that kind of thing. And so that definitely posed a challenge. We had a lot of sound challenges. So again, with the livestock, right, we'd have to be like, okay, let's wait for the cow to stop mooing this line. But it was so great too. I mean, again, it added so much authenticity. So those were just little things, but the ranch is absolutely gorgeous. We are so blessed to be able to shoot there. Very blessed.
Yeah, I love that.
It is. Okay, so what are we up to? Episode 4? Or did we have 5? I can't remember.
5 is the Sunday,
5 is the Sunday.
Okay, so from the first 4 episodes, did you have a favorite scene? It can be anything. Maybe a scene you wrote, or a scene that you just loved when you saw it come to life, or anything that we can, when we rewatch, we can look for.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, man. I really love, I mean, this isn't a scene as much as it is a series of scenes, but the relationship between Missy and her mother.
You took that from me.
Oh, yeah. So funny. My mom called me the other day and she was like, is this supposed to be about me?
She said that. I didn't know that. Hey.
I love that. Thanks, Mom.
Obviously, when you're a writer, you have to take things from your personal life, but like, you gotta turn it up a little bit, right? Like, I really love that idea of, Connie, Missy's mother, feeling so conflicted about her relationship with Isabel, and the conversation that they get to have about motherhood, and that, sometimes you have more than one mother, some biological and some that you choose. And I really loved that storyline. That was probably one of my favorites.
Yeah. And I love that Tira tweeted out during that she had, they had worked together on Nurses.
Yes. We had no idea, or I had no idea when we cast Connie, and they were so good together and they look like each other. Like it's when the casting just works out that way. Not that it just works out. There's a lot of hard work and our producers are amazing, but they just work so well together. We love them.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Chris. Now that she took yours,
I know. It's funny. I will come up with another one, but I'm a piggyback. It's interesting. The Missy mother. It's fun. I was just thinking. It's so funny how far back. I think we really wanted to tell that story. Like really important. Like you think of her like just this kind of character of the episode thing. But like, and I was thinking about like when we were pitching the show, I have like these pitch pages, and one of them, you only have your main characters, and at the time, one of them was Missy's mother. Like just this, because I think we really value, like complicated parental dynamics. Again, not because of our parents, but I just love that. Like personally, my influences. Again, you wouldn't see this in the show that much, but like we love the Sopranos and like Tony and his mom.
Oh, yeah,
this is not that, but at the same time, it's that. Oh, I love you, but
dynamic.
That kind of stuff that's bread and butter for me.
Yeah,
so
no. We also both love a complicated show. So
I'm Italian, so you get it, right?
Sarah too.
She's using my hands.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to find a clip of me on this podcast without my hands up.
Yeah, I see someone mentioned the scene where Bo told off the guy who was talking smack about his family. I love that scene too.
Yeah.
Where he talks about rodeo and second chances, and that's probably another really, really good one.
Yeah, I mean, there's like in that episode too, like the it's funny. Episode 3 we talked. I mean, that one was we'll talk about it. I think it's okay to say that like it was called the McMurray Curse because that one went through a bunch of it was called that originally. And then it's funny because we had to go through a bunch of different versions of that one, and we all were like, "Oh, is this episode cursed?" But once it came out, it was kind of one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Like I love
the scene where Bo puts the riding shoes on Tira, and it's very much like Cinderella, a Western Cinderella. That's also one of my favorites.
Yeah. Just this idea of him helping her and being in that position of doing that, and even scenes that I didn't expect, like just seeing Missy at the end ride like that.
Yeah.
Talk
about moving scenes around. Like her getting on the horse and riding moved about 1,000 times. Like it was in episode 4, it was in the middle of episode 3. It was like everywhere. And I think the last place I put it was like kind of after all this stuff happened. And I was like, that just seems tacked on. In my mind at the time, I was like, that seems tacked on. It's not going to work. But once I saw it in the cut, I was like, oh, that works. I love it. Yeah. It's Victoria. It gave me chills. I was like, and then Bo's watching her.
Perfect.
Watching her, it's just I love that. And there's no words. Like a lot of times I don't care about the words. I'm a writer.
But no, sometimes it's like you like she earned her way there to that freedom in that moment. And so you gotta love that. I also love when Bo told everybody off. That's really the first time us as viewer see Bo stepping up to lead that family, to be the voice or the spokesman, right? So Tough actually has been doing a great job of it, right? He's like been right there, and Isabella McMurray, Mama McMurray, she's like, of course, she's like the rock, but it's the first time you actually see him like step out under the Austin shadow.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
that's great.
Yeah, glad that came through. We're both the third of 3, so we're both the babies. But that middle child, especially when you lose an older sibling, of feeling like, how do I step into that role? How do I lead the family? I think that was something we were really interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's such a tricky dynamic right there. Yeah. Which makes it interesting, and that's why we're watching, right?
Right. So,
but go ahead, Julie.
Yeah. So we've seen 4 episodes. And we're getting hints of some long-term arcs here, and maybe some setups that came out of actually my favorite scene, the bar scene in episode 1, where there's just a lot of like launching points from right there. Nice. But we're starting to see these things. So we've seen a fair amount of drama, but we're just starting to get glimpses of maybe romances. So are we going to see romances continue forward?
I mean, I would say I hope you feel like it's romantic. Yes, I mean that was, we have such a great looking cast. It was hard to imagine that they wouldn't have a lot of romance in
there. People will be lining up for all these people, right? So these are the beautiful people, then we're here to watch the beautiful people. It's Hallmark. We're here to watch that romance too. Yes. Is that fun to write those arcs?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, I think we definitely like. I mean, especially on Hallmark, it's the name of the game is is sort of like make sure it goes at like can we say slow pace? You know, like no one's jumping into bed together very quickly.
Simmer.
It's a simmer, yeah.
Which is great. I mean, there was just an article that came out about Abbott Elementary and how they're really the masters at this, really, of the slow burning romance. And I think what's so interesting is that we had the opportunity to have a slow build, and that you don't get that satisfaction of seeing the characters you love get together right away. And how do you build that tension? How do you build the simmering, the looks across the room, and all of that? Like, that was really fun to. It sounds like a constraint, but it actually was a lot of fun to try to work within those parameters.
We get the one scene where we talk about are we just having beers, or are we going to actually get to go on a date, or some of those things like is this going to happen? Are we going to get to go along for the ride? Right. So
definitely. Yeah. It's a story too with Missy, like just with Missy being a grieving widow and going through what she went through, really wanted to ground that in kind of, I mean, I won't speak as a man about that, but I've in our writer's room heard a lot about like what that would be like every time, a suitor or whatever would come along. It's like, you can get close, but like, Austin cast a big shadow, that is the name of it. And so it's very hard. And she's trying to get out from under a shadow, and both professionally and romantically.
Right. Well, it would feel silly if she was ready to date when it's just barely been like a year, right? So
right.
Yeah.
But I kind of love that there's always been a moment that was there that was that near kiss, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
It's like, oh, not yet, but you got to have a near kiss.
Hoping, right?
Yes.
Just knowing that there's things there, right?
Exactly. Yes. And especially between Missy and Cash, there will always be things there, right? Like they're always going to be each other's kind of North Star in a way, even if they're just friends, if they're dating romantically, there's always going to be something about those two that always pulls them back together. So
because there's also Gus.
Right.
There is Gus. Yes.
Yes.
What team are you both on? I'm so curious.
We don't do teams anymore.
Yes.
That is burnt out. That is
amazing. Listen, Gus is hard to ignore, right?
Right.
But I also feel like I know the end game, so I'm along for the ride.
Best love triangle, right? Is they're both pretty viable.
Yeah. We were pushed into we hate a love triangle now, but that's a whole different story. But I do love Tyler Jacob Moore plays Gus, and he just is so likable.
He's hysterical, by the way. Like, he had it laughing the whole podcast.
He's so funny. And you know what's great about him is that's exactly who he is in real life.
No, right.
I used to make the joke. I was like, he must murder puppies because he's the kindest human you will ever meet.
So sweet.
He's genuinely kind. Like, it's incredible. Yeah.
And then Gus is just like, you think you want to hate him, and then he comes to the table and he sits at the dinner, and you're just like, oh gosh, he's so likable.
Yeah, I know.
He's prepared. He knows he's not trying to be a rancher. He knows he's not, but he's done his homework. And you're just like, dang, that's likable.
Yes, he's feeding the little calf. And,
oh, great. Now, Becky, now you spoiled the show because now people know that Gus murders puppies in episode 2.
In episode 6. Gus.
No.
Welcome to the writer's room.
No, but he's like, it's fun. It's fun to see these characters coming from different backgrounds, and everyone brings something to the storyline and something to the ranch, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Love that. All
right, so we love a good Easter egg while we're watching. So is there something you can think of for us to watch on Sunday night and tweet as we're all live tweeting?
Ooh, an Easter egg for tomorrow.
Or anything that's up and coming.
It could be up and coming, yeah.
Wait, can I give you a pass? I can think of a pass.
Yeah, give us a past one.
Okay, pass.
We'll go back and watch.
Like, it wasn't an Easter egg. It was just
spoiler.
No, it wasn't, because so what do you think happened at the very end of episode 4? Just to make clear on what the audience thinks versus what I think about Valeria. What do you know?
She was Right. See, at the very end, was that when
It ended with the burning of the license, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I personally think she had to get out of a bad situation.
Okay.
Right. Okay. But it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, her knowing how to play poker was definitely, we loved that storyline a lot. We had a lot of fun with that, of like showing this new side to her that was a little bit of an Easter egg of like, she's got something.
It was giving me Yellowstone vibes. The guys in the guys with the hands playing. Yeah. No, I was like, oh, I'm all here for this. I also maybe grew up playing poker, but
oh, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, I'm too afraid to spoil things. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, if
we'll wait and see what it is. It just feels like a woman that had to get out of a bad situation, though. To me, it gives me that vibe, like she had to go through a lot to find a safe place, and maybe the ranch is a safe place. That's the vibe I'm getting. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but
all right.
I'm not going to respond.
Whatever it is,
confirm or deny.
I'm too afraid to get in trouble.
I'm not going to say anything. Okay, so there's my 2 bits. So
well, you know what we'll use for the Easter eggs? You gave us all the name connections, so that's really fun, right?
Oh yeah.
And, wait, hold on. There's one more. Galindo is a family friend's last name.
Yeah.
That's what.
So Valeria Galindo.
That's her last name.
Okay.
It's funny when like they were like, wait, they see like they like message Becky like, and they're like,
right. And then Valeria I was a teacher for several years, and I had a student named Valeria, and I just always felt like that was such a unique name. And as writers, you're always searching for those really specific names, especially in a world like this. So that was another one.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, we could go on all day about names.
I love that. Yeah, those teachers and those kid names, they're the ones that stick with you. You get so exposed to so many kids' names. It's great, right?
I know. I have to keep a little log of all.
And there's always like what you will and won't name your children. That's a whole different thing.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I know. I had
a different reason. Yeah,
exactly. You're like, oh, can't name them that. That was the kid.
Sarah was also a teacher, so.
True. Would you guys be willing to play a little game with us?
Sure.
At that point, what do you think, Julie?
Yeah. It's not really a game. You can't fail at this.
Fail.
It's like a trivia game on our own show that we're gonna
play. Nope, not at all.
We need to figure out how to say that better. We should ask the writers. Okay. Anyway, we have a favorites game, so we're going to ask you some things. What are your favorites, and you can share. Do you have a favorite rom-com?
Ooh, favorite rom-com. Chris
or just a romance movie or anything.
I mean, Sleepless in Seattle, I think.
Oh gosh, right.
Classic.
I'll look at my letterbox. What's my favorite?
You've got mail.
No.
Yeah.
Knocked Up. I don't know. I'm kidding. I don't know. I'm joking, sort of. I'm not sure.
No, but yet you still like it. So it's perfect.
It's not a comedy. Never mind. I was thinking just romance.
Romance. But yes, I love it. I love Titanic. I've seen that about 1,000 times. So there you go.
Yeah,
it's romance touchdown. Not a rom-com,
but it still counts.
Titanic, classic. Do you have a favorite TV show or a TV show that you're streaming right now outside of Ride?
Oh, wow.
Wait. Okay. Are you talking current or are we talking of all time?
Anything.
It's kind of 2 questions. So, what are you binging and what is your favorite show of all time? What are you going to put on?
Well, I definitely, as far as that's TV. See, people ask me movies. It's hard for me a little bit. I mean, I've seen a billion movies, but I categorize. I know my top 5 TV shows of all time.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Very quickly, it's Sopranos.
Yeah,
I know. I'm kind of a cliche white people. It's The Sopranos, The Wire, Friday Night Lights, Breaking Bad, The Shield. And I know that does not fit a Hallmark audience, but sorry, that's me.
We're real unbuttoned here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We like a lot of things. I mean, we just had a podcast earlier for an
Passion
Flicks. I mean, we're not stuck in the Hallmark bubble.
No, yes,
we're there.
Friday Night
others.
Yeah. And then right now, Succession for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, we love. I did post something like a meme that it was like of Kendall Roy crying because this is how I feel when our show airs. It's like to us, it's one of our favorite shows right now, and it's like we literally compete with Mommy and Daddy. It's that's insane that we have a show at the same time.
at the same time.
The show that we revere hardcore.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool, but also scary. You know, like we're competing with you.
Well, Rebecca, what are your favorite TV shows?
Oh man, definitely Friday Night Lights, Parenthood. I mean, I'm a huge Jason Katims fan. I love his original Roswell. I'm actually from Roswell, New Mexico, so that was one of my favorite shows growing up. Even though it was way cooler, I was like, I wish my town was cool. Oh yeah, I mean all of those. Yeah, I watched Sex and the City. Friends.
Wow,
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know. It's
funny.
I'm going
you
off
have
that
it in
she's
your
multiply binged, like seen.
Yeah.
It's like seen. We've seen The Sopranos, literally the entire series, probably 5 times.
Love that. I love that.
I mean, we can, quote that. We should do a trivia game on The Sopranos. That would be fun. But that's like our one show that we share a lot. But but you've seen Friends a lot,
right?
Too,
but what it all boils down to for us, and I think what we bring to Ride is like how much we love family drama, right?
Right.
You cannot go wrong with a complicated family dynamic. And I think that's what's so fun. And it seems to be the recurring theme in all of our favorite shows is that specific thing. Even though we both come from pretty, normal backgrounds, it's like there's always something fun about like, oh, this family, especially Parenthood with like, all their dinners and it's the family.
I love a good dinner scene. Oh man.
Exactly.
That's probably why I like that Gus scene so much. Is because like they're at dinner, everyone's stuck at the table.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We love it. We've been married and writing team for 13 years or whatever. We pull from drama within each other too in our own family. Like we just love. It's not like drama. Like you always take something that's a tiny inkling of like, oh, we remember and we'll do this all the time. Remember when we had a fight about this thing, and it like. We take that, we blow it up to 11. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like about death all of a sudden, but it's still the same kind of emotion. It has to be tied to an emotion that everyone can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like a lot of times that's why we don't watch like, oh, I don't know what it's like to, although I'm about to say this, and I love the movie Speed, but I don't know what it's like to be on a bus with a bomb attached to it. You know what I mean? But I still love that movie. But you know what I mean? Like it still has to be attached to, at least when it comes to television and empathizing with the character, has to be attached to like, oh, do people like? Have you felt this, even if it's about bull riding?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
like Succession. I am not a multi-billionaire, but I can understand like wanting to get your father's affection and his love, and we all have that in common.
Who doesn't? Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Who can't relate to that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love that.
Absolutely.
Love that.
All right. Do you have a favorite food, or maybe something you like to make together or go out together for?
Oh, I sure do. So like I said, I'm from New Mexico, and we have a very specific kind of Mexican food in New Mexico. Green chili enchiladas is my favorite food of all time. My mom makes incredible green chili enchiladas, and in New Mexico we stack them. So here I've noticed they're rolled, but in New Mexico they're stacked, and you can even sometimes get what we call Christmas chili, which is half green chili, half red chili, and it's so good, and it's so hot and spicy, and it's great. I miss it all the time.
Do you make it at home?
I try to. I'm not the greatest cook. I attempt to cook. And also Chris is very, he likes to eat very healthy. And so it limits what I can make.
Yeah. I mean, I joke that, it depends, but yes, I joke I could eat anything. Like so I almost joke that like I do really well in prison because I could just eat
Same thing.
Exactly. Like I eat egg whites in the morning, that type of thing. But so sorry to be boring about it, but like and I love a good like Italian sub, from Atlantic City Sub Shop in Southern New Jersey. Shout out, that type of thing. But like Wawa, anybody?
It always goes back to where you grew up. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's something I can't get right now, right? So it's like. Besides that, yeah, anything that's
anything I make, right?
Sure,
that's what you're supposed to do.
So what's Sub Shop once again in Southern New Jersey?
Oh, there's a couple, but like there's one called Atlantic City Sub Shop. It's like if you have just a specific type of roll that I've never had out here. It's all about the bread, right? So you have.
Is that the one that Sinatra would fly in?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They said the lore is that he would literally have them flew into Las Vegas. But I'm like, one time I literally tried to fly across. It was in a commercial airplane, but I tried to bring one back in college. And by the time I was done, it was like all soggy and gross. I'm like, did he keep the tomatoes on there? I don't know. type of thing. But it's,
I love that you did that.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think you have to go through security.
I think my mom just like packed it, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to eat this. But it was like 10 hours later. I'm like,
it reminds me of the MASH episode where they shipped ribs from somewhere
exactly.
something to Korea. Calling your sub all the way
Right.
across the
I have
country.
like a tangent. So you're from Jersey and you're from New Mexico. So how did the two of you meet?
Oh, that's a
Oh,
that's
yeah.
A story,
We met in college, and I will never forget the day. So Chris was, he was a film student at the time. I was a film student. I was a transfer student. I had gone to a different college my first year. And I wasn't even supposed to take this class that I was in, but I had talked to the professor, and he was like, oh, you're going to love it. Just take the class. And I was like, okay. So a couple of classes in, Chris ends up transferring into the class. He had thought about changing his major.
Yeah, because I was freshman year. I was like, I like got spooked by being a film major. I'm like, no, I can never make money being in the entertainment industry. This is too hard. Well, by the way, being a film major is like a bunch of like holding boom mics and waking up super early and like getting on set. Like, I hated that thing. That's why I'm like, I respect anybody who works on set. They work 1,000 times harder than we do.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yes. So he transferred into the class, and our professor said, everyone say hi to Chris. And I turned around, and I remember thinking, oh my, so very attractive. I thought he was way older than me. I was like, I'm probably never going to talk to him again.
It's like a double-edged compliment. Old but attractive.
I thought you were older than me, not like.
No, I know. Basically, I look like this in college still. So.
And yeah, it hasn't changed much. And we had this student-led TV show, like a late-night comedy sketch show, and Chris was one of the writers on it. And at the time, I wanted to work in the camera department.
Oh, there! Look at you guys.
Oh, so cute,
yeah, babies. And so he asked for my resume, which had my number on it. And so we started talking.
Nice, Chris.
Yeah, I know. We started talking. We were friends for a while, and he was always like, you know, I really like you. Is this ever going to be more than that? And I was like, no, I have to focus on my career. And, you know, I'm so serious. And then after a couple years, I was just like, he was my best friend. And it just kind of happened. We were like, okay, I actually have real feelings for you. And it was kind of like a rom-com itself. So then we got together and we got married at 22. So we were very young, and we've been together ever since. And now we have 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Imagine that if you didn't just randomly take that class, how different your life would be.
Exactly.
Yes, I know. I hate that I took a class I didn't need to take. I love that I met him at least.
Yeah, no, same thing. I was like, I had this class. I was also kind of like, I didn't feel like I needed to take it. It was kind of like his entry level thing. And again, I was already, I think I was trying to, for the beginning of my sophomore year, I dropped out of film program and I enrolled in psychology. But no shade to anyone who is on the chat or whatever who was a psychology major, but my brother was a psychiatrist, and I texted him and I was like, and he was like, don't do undergrad psychology. It's kind of a waste of time, is what he said. And so I was like, okay. And I was like,
because film is so much more.
I know, but I was like, I just didn't. So I was really having this like existential. Not sure. I'm sure a lot of freshmen go through that, but I just didn't know. I had to discover kind of the writing path. I was like, oh, this is kind of merges those two of like human psychology is so love,
Right.
And so again, I don't care about the cameras and the bup and the light, that's great. Thank you for making it look pretty, but it's that stuff. And so but anyway, I transferred in and I was same thing. When you saw Becky, I was like, oh, okay. Like turned around, super bubbly. I remember her wearing like turquoise earrings or something. And she was very like, oh, New Mexico, I was like, the only way I knew how to hit on her was because she was very like, she wanted to be she wanted to be a director of photography. And so I was like, okay, you can be a camera person and man on campus type of thing. When we didn't know, we were just
we didn't know what we were doing,
just posturing and all that kind of stuff. I also got into this internship called through the Emmys, and our first date was, I was pretty big flex. I'll tell you this. Our first date was well, it was a date, but it was like I needed to bring someone I got to go to the Creative Arts Emmys. Again,
amazing.
Like you get to be like a seat filler, right? But again,
but still,
but still, you get to get and you get to like sit next to like some celebrities, and you get to dress up. And so I was like, hey, you want to come? So that was huge flex. in my mind.
Yeah.
That was a big flex.
Yeah. He was always
Written this story yet?
Oh, actually, well, we good.
We've thought about it. Yeah, our college experience was very unique.
So
we've thought
I mean,
about that.
we actually went to a Christian college. That's another part of it. We went.
Well, I went to a Christian school
So
my
did I.
entire life. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so there you go.
So
Yeah.
you know, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What college were you at?
Spring by spring.
It's Biola University.
Okay.
In Los Angeles. It's in
Orange County.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, hence a lot of people were like, "Why'd you get married at 22?" I'm like,
Because spring by
It's
spring.
the thing, right?
Yeah, that's why I was so determined not to date. I was like, I'm not going to be another statistic. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, they
Don't get me going down that.
of Los Angeles because it's people get married so young. But
Yeah.
we kind of
So I love that. So the movie of the week will be entitled "I Saw Him Across the Classroom."
Yeah, right.
Oh man.
Let me give you my resume.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is the best conclusion to any podcast
Great
ever.
story.
Is I think our couples love stories have been some of our favorite stories we've gotten. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
Definitely.
It's so fun. Well, thank you so much for being here. You clearly know we're excited for the show. So thanks. It was so fun to talk and learn about how you've made it, and we're excited to see the rest. Other than Ride, do you have anything else that we can look out for?
Oh, not at the moment. We're working on it, but not at the
Ride is a pretty big deal. So like
thank you so much for your support. It means so much to us. Like it's such a dream come true to have people watch it and have so many amazing people and talented people work on it. So we're just so thrilled and blessed. So thank you so much.
So much.
We love having you.
yeah.
Hang on for a minute while we say goodbye, and we'll say goodbye to everyone.
All right.
Okay, sounds
Bye,
good.
guys.
Everybody.